Hello everybody, welcome to my channel.
Kim Novak is an iconic American actress whose luminous beauty and enigmatic screen presence made her one of the most captivating stars of Hollywood's golden age. Born Marilyn Pauline Novak on February 13, 1933, in Chicago, Illinois, she began her career as a model before being discovered by Columbia Pictures, which groomed her to be their answer to Marilyn Monroe. Early career and rise to fame. Novak made her film debut in the early 1950s. But it was Picnic, 1955, opposite William Holden that launched her into stardom. Her role as the alluring yet vulnerable Madge Owens earned critical acclaim and solidified her image as a sultry screen siren. She quickly followed up with major roles in hits like The Man with the Golden Arm, 1955, with Frank Sinatra, Pal Joey, 1957, again with Sinatra and Rita Hayworth, Belle, Book and Candle, 1958, alongside James Stewart. However, it was her unforgettable performance as Madeline Elster, Judy Barton in Alfred Hitchcock's Vertigo, 1958, that became her most enduring legacy. Though the film was not initially a huge success, it has since been hailed as a masterpiece, often cited as one of the greatest films ever made, with Novak's dual-role performance considered haunting, tragic, and layered. Image and challenges. Kim Novak often resisted Hollywood's attempts to control her image. She bristled at the studio system's efforts to remake her into a blonde bombshell clone of Monroe. Novak wanted more serious, varied roles, but typecasting and the industry's sexism limited her opportunities. She also faced personal challenges, including depression and bipolar disorder, which she later spoke about publicly. Her high-profile relationships, most notably with Sammy Davis Jr., which stirred controversy due to racism, also kept her in the headlines. Later career and life. By the late 1960s, Novak began stepping away from Hollywood. Disenchanted with the industry, she chose a quieter life, focusing on painting, raising animals, and living in Oregon with her husband, equine veterinarian Dr. Robert Malloy, whom she married in 1976. She made occasional returns to the screen, including roles in The Mirror Cracked, 1980, with Elizabeth Taylor, a recurring role in Falcon Crest during the 1980s, a rare appearance at the 2014 Academy Awards, where her presence sparked renewed interest and appreciation for her legacy. Kim Novak remains a symbol of complex beauty and independence in Hollywood history. Despite an uneven filmography, her best performances, especially in Vertigo, continue to mesmerize audiences and film scholars alike. She is also recognized for forging her own path, both personally and professionally, at a time when few actresses had that freedom. Today, Novak is admired not just for her film work but for her honesty, resilience, and lifelong commitment to art beyond the silver screen. A studio creation, but on her own terms. When Kim Novak was signed by Columbia Pictures in the early 1950s, studio head Harry Cohn aimed to mold her into a glamorous leading lady in the mold of Rita Hayworth, another Columbia success story. She was given a new name, Kim, for its modern sound, and Novak retained from her Czech heritage to suggest a bit of exoticism. But despite being shaped by the studio system, Novak never fully embraced Hollywood conventions. She was known for her soft-spoken demeanor, naturalistic acting, and her introverted, often melancholic air, qualities that set her apart from the more overtly sexualized and bold contemporaries of her era like Monroe or Jane Mansfield. While others played to the crowd, Novak often played against the grain, making her an emotionally complex presence on screen. Notable films and performances. Beyond Vertigo, Novak brought depth to numerous roles. Middle of the Night, 1959, a serious, adult drama with Frederick March where Novak plays a working-class woman in love with an older man. She received praise for her sensitive, grounded portrayal of human bondage. 1964, Novak took a risk in this remake of the W. Somerset Maugham novel, playing opposite Lawrence Harvey. Although the film received mixed reviews, Novak's performance was bold and ambitious. Kiss Me, Stupid, 1964, a Billy Wilder comedy that paired her with Dean Martin in a role that was controversial and daring at the time, where she played a barroom floozy with a touching sense of vulnerability. The Legend of Lila Clare, 1968, a cult film about a woman who becomes possessed by a dead movie star. Though the film flopped, it reflected Novak's willingness to experiment with more surreal and psychologically layered material. Artistic passion, painting in her later years. Kim Novak turned to painting and visual art, which she had studied early in life at the School of the Art Institute of Chicago. Her artwork is deeply personal and expressive, often using symbolism and abstraction to reflect inner emotional states, grief, and healing. She has exhibited her paintings in galleries and continues to create art that explores themes of mental health, identity, and nature. Novak has said that painting helped her process past trauma, including her difficult experiences in Hollywood. She painted during her husband's cancer treatments and after the death of her beloved animals. And she often merges her spiritual connection with animals and landscapes into her canvases. Personal life and privacy. Kim Novak has always been intensely private. She never sought celebrity for its own sake and often retreated from the public eye. Her romance with Sammy Davis Jr. in the 1950s was cut short due to severe pressure from the studio and even threats from organized crime, a chilling reminder of the racial taboos of the time. That experience deeply affected her view of Hollywood's power structures. Her marriage to Dr. Robert Malloy was enduring and grounded. The couple lived for decades in rural Oregon, where Novak found peace away from the pressures of fame, public reappraisal, and later recognition. While some of Novak's films were underappreciated in their time, many have undergone critical reappraisal, especially Vertigo, which has risen to the top of greatest films of all time lists, even dethroning Citizen Kane on some polls, like the 2012 Sight and Sound Critics list. In recent years, Novak has spoken candidly about her struggles with bipolar disorder, her plastic surgery regrets, addressing harsh tabloid coverage after her 2014 Oscars appearance, her desire for authenticity, and her rejection of the superficial aspects of stardom. She has since become something of a quiet feminist icon, celebrated for her self-possession, her refusal to be exploited, and her enduring artistic integrity. Legacy. Kim Novak stands as a paradoxical figure in Hollywood history. A glamorous blonde who refused to be pigeonholed, a sex symbol who yearned for serious roles, a star who fled the spotlight, and an actress whose most haunting performance, Vertigo, is now considered a defining moment in cinematic art. Her legacy continues through film retrospectives and critical essays, art exhibits of her paintings, her influence on later actresses who challenged the Hollywood machine. She is not just remembered, she is rediscovered anew by each generation. Cyclone, Vertigo, the role that defined and haunted her. Alfred Hitchcock's Vertigo, 1958, is now regarded as a cinematic masterpiece, a psychological thriller wrapped in themes of obsession, duality, control, and illusion. Kim Novak's dual performance as Madeline Elster and Judy Barton is central to its power. What makes Novak's work so extraordinary in Vertigo is her ability to embody both idealized fantasy and tragic humanity. As Madeline, she's the cool, unreachable blonde, the image of perfection. As Judy, she's insecure, vulnerable, yearning to be loved but trapped by manipulation. Novak didn't just play these roles, she projected emotional layers beneath the surface that most actresses of the time weren't allowed to explore. Director Martin Scorsese later said Novak's performance in Vertigo comes from a deeper, more wounded place. Ironically, Novak was cast late after Vera Miles dropped out, and Hitchcock famously wasn't enthusiastic about Novak, feeling she lacked Miles's controlled elegance. But critics now agree that Novak's emotional rawness was precisely what made the film unforgettable. She brought Vertigo its heart, its mystery, and its tragedy. Face mask typecasting and subversion. While Kim Novak was initially cast in blonde bombshell roles, she quietly subverted those expectations. Unlike Monroe or Mansfield, she rarely played characters who were ditzy or overly flirtatious. Instead, Novak brought a quiet sadness, a sense of self-possession, and often a hint of tragedy beneath beauty, even in lighter films like Belle, Book and Candle, 1958, where she played a modern witch in Greenwich Village. She infused her character with melancholy, a romantic figure who hides her feelings behind a chic facade. Critics have since praised the way Novak evoked loneliness and longing, even when playing glamorous roles. Brain a woman out of time. Kim Novak was, in many ways, ahead of her time. She rejected the artificiality of the studio system, spoke openly about mental illness in later years, and sought autonomy, both creatively and personally. She famously once said, "I don't think I ever really wanted to be an actress. I think I just wanted to be loved." This quote captures the core of her screen persona. A woman who appears serene and composed on the outside, but who carries deep emotional currents beneath. Her departure from Hollywood in the late 1960s was not a retreat, it was an act of self-preservation. She didn't fail as a star. She walked away from a system that couldn't understand or protect someone like her. Paint palette art as therapy and reclamation. After leaving acting behind, Novak devoted herself to painting, nature, and spiritual healing. Living in Big Sur and later in Oregon, she developed a reputation as a serious visual artist, often exhibiting her work in galleries. Her paintings are expressive, often abstract, and filled with symbolic figures, animals, angels, storms, and light. She painted through grief and trauma. The death of her animals, her own struggles with bipolar disorder, her battle with breast cancer in the 2010s. She used her art not for fame but for emotional clarity, a way to reclaim herself from the roles and images Hollywood once imposed on her. Later life, public image and resilience. In 2014, Kim Novak made headlines when she appeared at the Academy Awards and was cruelly mocked online for her appearance, prompting public support from figures like Russell Crowe and Rose McGowan. And a fierce letter from Novak herself calling out the culture of ageism and misogyny in Hollywood. That moment turned into a rallying cry for respecting older women in the industry. She said, "I refuse to be ashamed of growing older. I'm proud of my life. I survived." It marked a turning point. Novak was no longer a recluse but a symbol of strength, dignity, and the right to age naturally and privately. Candle cultural significance. Today, Kim Novak is more than a former movie star. She is a cinematic icon, especially for her role in Vertigo, a symbol of resistance against objectification, a case study in the dangers and trauma of the studio system, a creative survivor. Thriving through painting and solitude, she influenced countless artists and filmmakers. Directors like David Lynch, Pedro Almodovar, and Brian De Palma have cited her ethereal, tragic screen presence as a key influence. Modern stars such as Naomi Watts, Nicole Kidman, and Rosamund Pike have taken on Novak-style roles, cool blondes with cracks in their emotional armor. crystal ball Kim Novak as mythic figure. More than a starlet, Kim Novak became a kind of myth, not by her own design, but because of the silences and absences in her story. Unlike stars who carefully managed their legacies, Novak let hers unfold organically, often in retreat. This has made her an object of both fascination and projection. Similar to figures like Greta Garbo or Brigitte Bardot, women who withdrew rather than conform. In Vertigo, her character Judy becomes a blank slate for male fantasy, an eerie parallel to how Hollywood treated Novak herself. She was shaped, renamed, marketed, and costumed, yet she always let something authentic and wounded shine through. This dichotomy between image and reality, persona and self, became her cinematic signature. Novak was never about overt power. Her appeal lay in her resistance, in her quiet refusal to fully surrender. In the vulnerability she allowed to exist on screen, even when it made others uncomfortable. Brain intelligence behind the beauty Kim Novak was often underestimated intellectually, partly due to the roles she played, and partly due to Hollywood's narrow expectations for actresses. But off-screen, she was deeply introspective, highly artistic, and spiritually inquisitive. She studied art, philosophy, and poetry, and she questioned everything, from fame to love to mortality. In interviews, she often spoke of the natural world as her guide, describing her horses, her garden, and the ocean as healing forces. Her favorite companion was often not a co-star or director, but an animal or an easel. She said, "My earth is my church. The stars above me, the winds, the ocean. The wildness, that's where I feel whole." This spiritual naturalism shaped her worldview and her art, and it gave her the strength to reject the spotlight, long before it became fashionable. Woman artist mental health advocacy, before it was accepted later in life. Kim Novak bravely opened up about her struggles with bipolar disorder, at a time when many celebrities still kept such issues hidden. She described the emotional turmoil she often felt on film sets. The pressure to be perfect, the intense highs and lows, and the isolation of stardom. When her condition was finally diagnosed, it explained much of the inner conflict she had long endured in silence. Rather than be defeated by it, Novak used painting as therapy and expression, encouraging others with mental health struggles to speak, create, and survive. Kiss mark a feminist symbol in retrospect. Though not overtly political in her heyday, Kim Novak has come to represent a kind of proto-feminist figure. She resisted being sexualized on command, demanded better roles, and walked away when they weren't offered, publicly criticized industry pressure and beauty standards, took control of her personal life and identity in a time when actresses were often told to stay silent, be glamorous, and never age. Novak did the opposite. She aged naturally. She lived quietly. She spoke her mind in later years, about sexism, plastic surgery, and emotional trauma. Her 2014 letter to the public after being mocked at the Oscars was not just a defense of herself, it was a message to all women. You do not owe anyone your youth, your perfection, or your silence. Film projector legacy in contemporary film and culture. Kim Novak's influence extends far beyond her era. Contemporary filmmakers and actors often draw upon her work and persona when exploring characters who are emotionally layered, secretly wounded, caught between projection and reality. Novak's DNA can be seen in Nicole Kidman in Eyes Wide Shut, or the others Rosamund Pike in Gone Girl, Naomi Watts in Mulholland Drive, Rebecca Ferguson in Dune, Scarlett Johansson in Under the Skin. Filmmakers like David Lynch and Todd Haynes have clearly taken cues from Vertigo's hypnotic atmosphere and Novak's spectral femininity. Even pop culture has borrowed from her. Mad Men referenced Vertigo's themes in its characters. Musicians and fashion designers have cited Novak as a style and mood influence. Art historians now study her as a case of feminine representation. and erasure in mid-century cinema of today. The hermit artist who won as of now, Kim Novak, lives in rural Oregon, far removed from the world of agents, premieres, and paparazzi. She paints, rides horses, writes poetry, and lives her truth, a quiet rebellion against everything Hollywood ever tried to impose on her. She never chased awards. She never begged for roles. She never sold her image. And yet, her legacy is far deeper than many who did. Trophy recognition and honors. Though she was never honored with a competitive Oscar, her contribution has been acknowledged through a Golden Globe Award, Most Promising Newcomer 1955, a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame, Lifetime Achievement Awards from international film festivals, retrospectives at institutions like the Academy, Museum, MoMA, and Cinémathèque Française. Fans and critics continue to call for her to receive an honorary Academy Award, arguing her impact on cinema, especially through Vertigo, is immeasurable. Kim Novak. The enigma WHO never asked to be understood. While many Golden Age stars basked in attention, Novak remains a paradox. The more you learn about her, the less she fits into any Hollywood mold. She didn't pursue fame, it came for her. And when it came, it never quite knew what to do with her. Her lasting power isn't just in her beauty, or even her performances, it's in what she withheld, what she refused to become, and how she escaped without bitterness. Candle the ghost in Vertigo. In Vertigo, Novak doesn't merely play a character, she becomes a phantom of desire and destruction. The duality of Judy, Madeline, represents more than narrative artifice, it's a cultural metaphor. Madeline, the perfect, unreachable fantasy, cool, composed, sculpted Judy. The real woman, emotional, insecure, messy, and human. Hitchcock wanted Madeline, but Novak gave him Judy's soul too, and that's what made the performance so unsettling and unforgettable. No other performance in classic cinema so elegantly encapsulates the dehumanizing effects of male fantasy and the cost of female self-erasure. Novak played it decades before mainstream feminism named it. Today, Judy's scream, "I don't care anymore about me," is seen as one of the most devastating lines in all of Hitchcock's work. Because it wasn't just Judy speaking. It was Kim Novak, and every woman forced to become someone else's idea of perfection. Milky Way beyond stardom. The artist as survivor. Once Novak retreated from film, she didn't cling to old fame. She turned to canvas, color, and quiet. Her paintings are often described as spiritual self-portraits, filled with emotional abstraction and the iconography of the natural world. Wolves, horses, birds, often representing instincts and freedom. Storms and light, depicting inner turmoil and healing. Eyes, masks, shadows, references to the dual identity she wore in Hollywood. She painted through trauma, the 2000s house fire that destroyed many works, the loss of her animals, her cancer diagnosis. Through it all, she created instead of performed. Her work is not celebrity art. It's the honest output of someone who needed art to survive. DNA symbol of rebellion.
Bye bye. Thanks for watching. Bye.